Hello and welcome back, everyone, to Metal Hellsinger on Rocket Rabbit Commentaries as we enter Stygia. This is the loadout screen. From here, you can actually choose which of your primary and secondary weapons you're going to use, as well as what runes you're going to use. I'm going to be switching out my rune loadout for every part that we do, specifically so I can show off how little they honestly change the gameplay. To be perfectly honest, I think the rune system is not nearly as good as it realistically should be, but it does function. Let's see. Right, I'm actually supposed to have Persephone for this level, so we're gonna keep Persephone and our dual pistols. When the game starts, you got access to 3 weapons immediately. You have access to your sword, you got access to Paz the Skull, and you have access to the dual pistols.
I told you she'd sing again. Killing that bit of the judge gave her some of her voice.
Alright, our narrator sucks. I already don't like the narrator.
But why?
Like, he's dropping the proper nouns, the capitalized nouns, the unknown, the red judge, but just pick up a book and learn how to express a more concise thought. Like, this guy's putting me to sleep.
Well, is it because of his Southern sultry vibes?
We were still nobodies in
sultry. No, it's just he's. Like, just get to the fucking point.
He is making, interesting points. He's just doing it with a stereotypical Southern accent.
Before anything, the judge wanted answers. You see, some poor devil once told the judge that he destroyed this old skull.
The devil went down to hell, realized he had a concert to attend. He had no tickets, but he was sure that his day would end. Unless he could find this bad bitch holding a skull in her hand. So he picked up a guitar, got a drummer and a bassist, then she was in a band.
Hell 101.
Lie, but don't lie to the judge.
You gotta be done for that. Then again, this joker here, well, let's just say somewhere a village was missing their idiot.
See, I like that idiot.
Nope.
This damn soul, the unknown, shall be your only war. My aspects will guard the
Hey, we have an objective now. Woot!
Tell me you
That's a lot of aspects.
Yes. And we'll be fighting most of them.
Can you dig it?
Alright, into Stygia.
I remember this place like it was yesterday.
Are all these songs done by Two Feathers?
Not all of them, and in fact, at the very end of the game, we have a special guest appearance that you will recognize. Yes. So, I've already but annotations, Gerdat, I've already tutorialized the viewers on how the shotgun is named Persephone, because that was something that we didn't get to see actually come to fruition because, well, I can't figure out how to delete my save file. I wanted to do a fresh run of this game, I really did, but I couldn't figure out how the hell to actually delete my save.
So, do they set the tempo of the music track according to the weapon that you're using?
No. In fact, my performance with the dual pistols is actually pretty bad because you're supposed to be firing on every beat with the pistols. And yes, they do have fast enough recharge time for that to actually work. It's just that I'm not skilled enough with doing it. I prefer going on every other beat with the pistols. I'm also not good on the reload mechanic for the pistols either.
Like, oh, E minor 7, please. More. Reload.
You'll also notice that I'm not actually all that accurate with the pistols. It's why I lean on Persephone so much for a majority of the playthrough. Once we actually get into the latter half of the game. So, Stygia is, you'll notice, a bit more, it's a bit less classic hell and a bit more modern hell, where we actually have a bunch of what seems to be humanoid buildings floating around. I want to say Stygia specifically is inspired by Doom Eternal, but I don't think the timeline for that actually matches up, so... A bunch of the later areas in the game, in fact, are more city industrial than they are classical hell.
Right. So somebody better call the repair crew. Is that streetlight's a little dinged up?
Another thing that I didn't actually mention: every weapon actually has a special / ultimate. The Persephone's is a wave of fire that will take down a majority of smaller enemies and even a good portion of medium enemies in a single shot. Whereas the dual pistols has got one of the more interesting specials, in that the unknown will generate a clone of herself that actually draws enemy fire and does some amount of damage.
Now, do you get more points if the enemy gets close to hitting you but doesn't?
If what doesn't?
Gotcha. Dance with me, demons.
Dance with the unknown. I just keep listening too much to the soundtrack instead of commentating. I gotta work on that. Alright, the enemy types in the game. We've only so far been really introduced to 3 different enemy types. The standard demon, the upgraded brawler demon, and this particular demon, the evolved shepherd. I don't actually remember what any of the demons' names are, which is kind of a problem for me, given a thing that's going on in my personal life right now. But I will say that you don't really need to know the names of the demons, as they aren't actually all that important. What is important is that you recognize from the demon's design what kind of fight you'll be engaging with. Like this guy. This guy is, I believe his name is actually supposed to be Nemesis, and that's right. This guy is Stalker. He is extremely agile. He'll teleport around the arena, attempting to do melee attacks on you, and it is your goal to stay both away from him and kill him ASAP in order to progress a majority of the arenas. Thankfully, at least on normal difficulty, the game doesn't actually have you fight stalkers with other enemy types all that often, but not until at the very least a bit later on. Now I remember, the shepherd demons are actually behemoths. Yeah, that's what they're called.
I find that one of the most useful functions of letting you know what the name of an enemy is so that in case characters or tip hints inside the game itself are telling you how best to approach these enemies, that you know which enemies we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's about it, though. I mean, I see dancing guys, green guys, tall guys with heads, floating wings and faces.
And as long as you can actually parse out the design of the enemies that you're fighting, as well as remember how best to approach enemies of that particular design, then that's all you realistically need. One of the things that we're doing a very little in combat, because I'm actually quite bad at it, is dashing. The Unknown actually has a dash system that also you are supposed to be able to do on every beat, but I'm just absolutely terrible at timing it up with that in order to not only have additional mobility in combat, but additional mobility outside of combat, for traversal purposes. The dash is actually very good in this game. I'm just not good with it. As annotations Gerdat brought up, yeah, I am much more comfortable with Persephone than I am with the dual pistols. And yes, you can actually dash in midair as well. The game very much wants you to, be constantly dashing and dash jumping all over the place as you are going through the arenas. And I am just simply not comfortable doing that because, well, I don't have the skill in order to make that, look or play all that decently.
Speaking of looking or playing decently, is there multiplayer in this game?
There is not. This is very specifically single player only, and I'm not entirely sure how multiplayer would have even worked outside of co-op. And even in co-op, it would have to be pretty much local multiplayer only. And this being an FPS, local multiplayer would not be a thing that anyone would actually want to try and do, especially on PC.
Right. Yeah, I would think that Unknown would look a little weird if like, for example, you started moving like back and forth while not really shooting or. That's another question I had. Can you block in this game?
Yes, you can block in this game, but it is tied to one of the weapons. It is tied to the sword weapon, as a point of fact. And that's why I don't use it, because the sword is honestly extremely good at dealing with these smaller enemies and pretty much nothing else. However, one of the features that the sword does have is the ability to repel projectiles. You would think that this would actually make it one of the better weapons later on, but in order to have the mechanical skill for that, you need a lot of practice time with it. Time that I am not willing to invest.
Judge's second aspect, just wait for us.
The judge was an awful sore loser.
Well, you'll get to see here why she feels the right to be a sore loser. I mean, if you had the ability to summon aspects of yourself out of thunderstorms, wouldn't you do that, Mr. Cloud?
Oh, here we go, up tempo.
I really wish that I actually was good with the pistols, because they are honestly one of the most consistent weapons in the game. And if you're really good with the pistols, you can actually stay at 16x for an entire map much easier than what you can with either Persephone or my actual favorite weapon. To the point where I will actually, the final encounter of the game, I can't do with any weapon other than the pistol, sadly. Melee slay the behemoth. So for the boss fight specifically, one of the bigger things that you want to do for efficiency's sake is figure out when it is best to actually use your weapon's ultimates. Do you want to spend your weapon ultimate on the individual waves that come out, or do you want to do a boatload of damage to the bosses on their spawns? But you're starting to see...
That is a good question.
But you're starting to see how we're actually going into bullet hell design now, right, Mr. Cloud?
Well, bullets, yes. And we are in hell, Mr. Gerdat. This entire game so far has taken place in hell. Seems redundant.
You see, I'm not actually using a pun there, though, Mr. Cloud. I'm referring to a specific game genre.
Yeah, but bullet hell somewhat predicates on you being able to see where you're standing. You can't really see where Unknown's hooves, talons, feet, where you are on the field, and that's critical to bullet hell, because bullet hell means that the bullets are supposed to be attacking every position except for where you are.
Yeah, and that's what makes one of the final boss fight in the game so difficult for me, is because the amount of bullets that the game will actually expect you to dodge and have answers for gets really fucking absurd for the final fight. I would like to save that complaint for the boss fight, but it was a constant reminder as I'm going through this. Man, I really enjoy most of this fucking game. I really do. But yay, we made it through Stygia. Woot! With just under 7 million points too. Haha. And 82% of the game time spent at 16x Fury. Nice. And in the next episode, we'll continue on with Metal Hellsinger. Be safe, everybody.